want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away. You want us tricked, you want us numb, you want us scared and you want us stung. You want us shot, you want us fought in every way. You want our minds, you want our time, you want us framed up in your crime. I hope you know that it's time to go and we're taking names. 'Cause you don't get to tell us what to think and what to do. No, you don't get to tell us what is true. You're just liars, cheats and crooks, change the rules and you burn the books. And so we don't believe a single word you say. You're all liars, fakes and cons, want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away. 'Cause we see la 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 all your lies. La 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 all your lies. You don't get to tell us what to think and what to do. You don't get to tell us what to think and what to do. You don't get to tell us what to think and what to do. You're just liars, cheats and crooks, change the rules and you burn the books. And so we don't believe a single word you say. You're all liars, fakes and cons, want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away. 'Cause we see la 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 all your lies. La 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 all your lies. 'Cause you're just liars, cheats and crooks, change the rules and you burn the books. And so we don't believe a single word you say. You're all liars, fakes and cons, want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away.
So, I'm here today with my new co-host, Troy Cunningham-Jackson. Welcome.
Thank you.
You've been on the show before and telling your story. And, I think we probably need to revisit that story also, right?
Okay.
So we've had a little bit of a break in this podcast because my co-host didn't show up for multiple weeks. and now things have gone a little bit sideways with that, and we'll cover that later in the call or in the podcast. But anyway, I want the group to meet you. I know you told a little bit of your story before, but being that this is potentially basically the first part of a new set of the series, and you and I will have our own podcast separately, but I want you to introduce yourself and talk about who is this Audrey person I keep talking about?
Oh, this Audrey, this enigma. I don't know. Actually, so yeah, I would say that. So I am a child of an immigrant mother, and she came from Samoa. Met my dad in Hawaii. They got married. I was born. And then eventually, when I was about 3, we moved to the Midwest. So I spent the majority of my life in central Missouri in a small farming community called Meta, where a lot of people see it and they think it's Meta, but no, it's called Meta.
but
I think we had the name first, so
yes, before Zuckerberg took it over.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, very small farming community, maybe 300 people. I think we had more cattle and hogs than we had people. I went to a very small school, one building, housed kindergarten through 6th grade, and we even did co-sharing of grades. So like third and fourth grade were together, fifth and sixth grade were together, first and second were together. So I spent my entire elementary years in this very small country school. I mean, they had to basically pay teachers from Jefferson City, which was this huge metropolis compared to us, to drive. Yeah.
Yes.
To drive the 30 to 45 minutes. Huh?
Now, 49,000 people now.
Compared to 300, it was the big town. I mean, I can remember as a child, we'd go to Jeff City once a month. And that was when we would go and buy all of our groceries. And, we frequented, because we were fairly poor as I was growing up. I mean, I can remember not even having running water inside the house, having to use an outhouse. Yeah, no central air, no central heat, wood stove, and
on the wood stove. I can't even imagine. I came from a small school too. There was, 189 people in my graduating class in high school, which is incredibly small, especially when you think about California. We had a district of one school, but 6 people and no indoor plumbing is certainly
yeah. Yeah. But it's one of those things that's like, when I look back on it now, back then I was like, oh my gosh, it just seems so depressing to be so poor and not be able to afford anything. And, for the longest time, my dad wanted to buy me a horse. We could never afford to have a horse, or he wanted to send me to gymnastics or ballet, and we could never afford that. So I spent all my time running around the streets of Mita, which took me 5 minutes to probably lap the entire town. But it was, I can say, when I look back on it, I think it was a great childhood, because it taught me to be very resilient, and it taught me a lot about who I am as I grew up and eventually went on to college. We moved to Jefferson City at one point because our farmhouse caught on fire and was totally destroyed. So we had to move. And so I started 7th grade in a much bigger school. And you want to talk about culture shock. Some people think you're going to a foreign country and seeing a different culture. And this was just a matter of 30 to 45 miles. And it was a world of difference compared to how I had grown up. Mm-hmm. And so, started there, eventually graduated from JC High School, went on to college. And
excuse me, there are people riding dirt bikes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure Saba's probably going nuts.
That Saba is going nuts. For people who don't know, we house sit all around the country and the world. Feel free to book us. I am in Truckee and she is in Petaluma watching 2 different sets of animals. But yes, I did not. That is the first time I've seen dirt bikes go past the back of the house.
That's interesting. Yeah. No. So, I mean, I eventually graduated from high school, went on to college, actually studied theater in college, which was it was kind of funny. I originally intended to study accounting, got there, took an English lit class, and my teacher convinced me to go into theater because he said I had a knack for, design and of course, like interpreting and reading Shakespeare and stuff like that. So I switched. And then graduated from there with a degree in theater, spent a little time in the Springfield area, and then eventually came back to Jeff City, took an internship at my mother's office, where she had been working there for several years, and took an internship in the financial management section. It was supposed to be just for the summer. And that summer ended up turning into a full-time 27-year career with the Missouri Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. So, I worked my way up from just an intern to an account clerk to accounting specialist, and eventually became the fiscal and administrative manager for the Unemployment Trust Fund and our accounts payable team. And then in April, retired from there and my husband discovered AI on our first wedding anniversary. I was getting a little jealous, you know. I was like, I think he spends more time with ChatGPT than he does with me. And but then out of that time that he spent working with his AI came 5 pending patents on different types of AI things, infrastructure, governance, things like that. And then we decided to start a company because we knew the fallout from AI when it came to some people who were losing, you know, jobs left and right. And we've seen that here even in the last 6 months that we've been in California. You know, we've seen a lot of companies let people go because they're implementing AI, and then those people are, you know, basically out there in the world, and the job market's really hard right now. And so, you know, kind of my background in unemployment and dealing with that, we decided to try and do some good and serve humans and mankind over. Well, we do use AI. I will say we do use AI because, you know, we are an AI company, but at the same time, we also have a coaching arm that we, you know, try to help coach people through, and leadership trainings. And then also we have the grant writing section of our business where I spend a lot of my time writing grants because that's what I did, you know, working with managing grants for so many years with Missouri. And just, it was amazing to see people are like, oh, grants are so complicated, I can't figure this out. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm a grant writer. And then people are just like, oh, would you help me? And of course, that's our mission, is to help everybody that we can using what skills and knowledge we have. And so I've taken on writing grants and submitted probably 7 or 8 so far, and just waiting to hear back on a lot of them, whether or not they were awarded. And so yeah, just spending my time doing that and trying to help anybody. It's like any new startup that comes to us and they're like, well, we need funding and we've got this great idea. Okay, well, let me help you get funding for that. Right. It's kind of my mission now. And you know, and then doing a little bit of coaching and teaching on the side. I had a class on Substack on grant writing, 10-week class that I did and put out there just, you know, a lot of it was just informational for people who wanted to get into grant writing and didn't know what to do, kind of walk them through how I do it, as well as the typical cycle of, especially of federal grants, which was my biggest part of my background. But yeah, and then house sit when when we can, but that enables us to travel and not technically be tied down to one location, which is always nice. That was a dream of mine, to retire and live the van life. So this is kind of a sidestep to the van life. It's more like the house sitting life, and which I enjoy because it's fun to watch other people's animals and, you know, spend time kind of like living in someone else's shoes for a little bit, you know.
Yeah. That's probably my favorite part of it. Well, I mean, we stay in sometimes multi-million-dollar estates.
Yeah, it is true.
For free, which is pretty nice. But
nice, yeah.
The whole idea of getting to know someone else's life, their animals, all that stuff is huge. And yeah, when you told me, you're like, I want to live the van life. I had heard about this van life, and I was like, I don't understand. And then, so then I was like, well, why don't you check out this house sitting part? So, yeah. So let's. I think, you know, for the people watching, they're probably wondering, watching because they want to hear about what happened with Renahi. So, I think it was a comedy of errors that started with me being pro-American and making pro-American posts. And that ties into our grant writing because of America's approach now, is that it's going to be, grants are going to be awarded by pro-American, by political appointees. And so being pro-American is a very good a way to is important in getting those grants. So walk me through, with no prompting, how did we get here? Because I think there's a couple of people like William and Kelly who don't really know that much about the story.
Mm-hmm.
Would love to hear it from your side of the story before I obviously highly biased opinion.
Well, I guess a few days ago, you had received a message from Roberto, who was a co-founder of Renahi's Light Upon Light. And I know he was born in, I think he was born in California and then moved.
He's from New York. And actually what happened is I went to tag him on LinkedIn and couldn't tag him. So I reached out to Renahi to say, why can't I tag Roberto? It looks like he's blocked me.
With no warning. I mean,
no.
He never said anything to you. But I guess the gist of it was he blocked you because you were making posts and comments and things about being that were geared towards pro-America, which, I have to say, even though my mother was born in Western Samoa and she came to the United States, and after about 12 years, she finally got her citizenship because I was there with her when she took her pledge. So the idea of being, of trying to say that people should not be pro-American in this world, especially when you look at the federal grant side, when you're trying to apply for grant money, being anti-American, it's gonna be a big red flag, if not blacklist you to say anything. Yeah, because, and they do, and now with the current administration, they've gone through and they've redone some things, like the whole reviewer process is changing. Like you said, it's going to be political appointees are going to determine who gets the funding, and at any time they can pull that funding, they can freeze that funding, and they can't even make you pay it back.
Yeah, you can claw it back.
Going out there and what really struck me is when you did reach out to Roberto, he was saying something about, well, your comments being pro-American come off as anti-Muslim, and that affects his business, which, fine. If that's the way you want to play that, that's fine. But the idea that it was almost like he was expecting you to take back what you had said or change your viewpoint. And for me, I can't, with our, the company we have, I'm not going to be anti-American ever. That's just not something that I'm willing. That's not something I'm willing to do.
Yeah,
and I think that's made him.
That's a big thing. Is just because I support Muslims and I support DEI, and we're probably libertarians, but we're maybe left-leaning moderates. That does not mean we're not pro-America, and I don't understand. So, Roberto left the United States and he's in the UAE. And he said that my pro-America comments, at least this is what I heard through others, could hurt his funding. And what's really frustrating to me is that this podcast was literally born from a 2 a.m. conversation of me and Riley, where we were saying we will support each other regardless of what each other says and regardless of the fallout. And so I want to be very clear. I am highly pro-American. In fact, this tattoo on my arm, my shirt's a little tight to pull up my arm sleeve, but is patriotism. And I was born to a military family on an army base in Monterey, Fort Ord. And I was even conceived on the 4th of July, the bicentennial. Like, I couldn't possibly be more American than I was. But in the political climate as it is now, you cannot make anti-American claims and I think America is getting beat up beyond what they deserve. Not that America's perfect or anything like that. Like, they are taking an absolute beating in social media. And you know what else is really taking a beating is DEI. DEI is considered a 4-letter word now.
Yeah.
So when I was working with Renahi, and I'm like, okay, well, you're Muslim, you have an anti-American co-founder, and you're a DEI advocacy group. That means that I am taking an incredible risk as a business supporting you. And then for her co-founder then to say, my comments of being pro-America could hurt his funding over there in the UAE was wild. I was like, what? And he wasn't even the co-founder when we started this conversation. It's not even like this is all new, that I haven't always said this, and I haven't always been this way. And she said that she would support me in everything I said when I first said, and now here we are.
Yeah.
It's disappointing, you know. And I think what also hurt was when she said, well, you kept contacting me. And I'm like, no, you asked me to contact you. You were mad I hung up on you because I said what I wanted to say and hung up. And that's the thing, is learning to cope with my disability of being autistic. I'm going to say the wrong things, and I'm going to pop off at times and be highly aggressive in my speech, very black and white also. And then I'm like, I don't want to talk to you. And she forced me to talk, but then came back later and said, no, we need to talk. And I'm like, I don't want to talk to you. But I sacrificed to talk to her that day. And now she holds those words against me. And, you know, I don't even know if I told you this, is days later, because that was like, I think like a Wednesday, or no, it was a Friday, right? And then by Sunday, I was talking to her and she said she didn't want to be friends anymore and didn't want to go forward. And I even sent her that I take risperidone, and the side effects. I sent her the reason why people take risperidone is because they have dopamine and serotonin imbalances and stuff. And so now we're caught in a crossroads where this DEI advocacy group does not support people with disabilities unless they're visible.
Right.
And they also have a co-founder who's highly anti-American. And I'm like, you think, like, I guess I'm glad, like, she left. And then on top of that, she worked for us.
Yeah.
And accomplished nothing in that entire time, right? And so well, I guess I wouldn't say nothing, because she was the social media strategist, and she did some very good work on that social media side. I don't want to discount that. But she never wrote a single grant for us, even though she's a grant writer, in over 4 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm just kind of at a loss. And now I have been getting pushback from other people I did business with. You know, Kelly said, the way you left things with Renahi, I don't think we can continue. I don't mind. I was actually very complimentary of Kelly in saying that she went through me popping off in my autistic, aggressive way and stayed with me. And we talked about this on our panel. She was on our education and AI safety panel from the series From Fear to Framework. And I said, I was highly complimentary of Kelly that she could weather the storm, essentially, of things that I would say, to then now have Renahi not, and then William say, I can't do business with you and our multiple businesses because of what? Like, and so like her osteoporosis, what is it? It's like her physical ailments.
Yeah.
And then William has cerebral palsy. And then somehow my autism and the words that I say are wrong. Even when I explain it with the medication that I take, there was no forgiveness. There was nothing. And I really think it comes down to her personal feelings about me.
Yeah.
What did you observe during the time that I was friends? I mean, I was spending late nights talking to her.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of the points was too. So, you had this kind of blow up with her on Friday. You told her, you gave her, said, you think about it for a couple of days, whether or not you want to continue. That's fine. And then at the last minute, she sends, after the couple of days after, she's like, no, I'm not going to be part of Sugar Leather. Okay, fine. We'll make a clean break. And, for me at that point, I was like, if Roberto and Renahi are so offended by what they consider pro-American, anti-Muslim content or comments, I just went out there and removed them from my LinkedIn. I'm like, if that's how you feel, I'm not changing. I'm not changing. I'm not going to be anti-American ever. That's just something in my core belief system. And if that's offensive to you, then it probably is a good idea that we just not be connected. That way you don't have to see my content and get all in your feelings about it. So I went out and I removed them from my LinkedIn contacts. And then she turns around and sends me this to me, it was very offensive. It's not like she cussed me out or anything, but she was like, it was very sarcastic, almost in tone. Because she was like, thanks for removing my connection. And then she accuses me of that our interactions were always disingenuous. And that that she said she always felt like she said, but that comes from that I didn't like her. And I'm just like looking at it like, it's not that I didn't like you. I liked you a lot. I actually was like very supportive of you from the first day we met. And, and you came and you wanted to start writing grants. So I was trying to help you. And I was like, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to write them for you. You write something and let me look at it and let me review it. Let me give you some feedback, on how I see it. And just the same as like anytime I write a grant and I send it out, hey, tell me if you see something that doesn't look right, if you think I need to restate something. Because if you're not willing to take that constructive criticism, that's on you. That's not on the person giving it. But with Renahi over the months, I did, she's calling you at midnight, 1, 2 a.m., and you're having long conversations, not about work, but about personal feelings. And, and I kind of noticed this. There was another young lady that worked with us that kind of had the same thing. And it was like, because you have such a great and charming personality, I think they catch feelings. And so I think part of her outburst was jealousy, to be honest. That, she had feelings for you that weren't reciprocated, and I'm the one that's in the way, is kind of how I took it. And which is sad, because in a business world, you need to be more professional than that. And that was the part that really kind of set me off, was just the lack of professionalism on both Roberto's part and Renahi's. And then all of a sudden, these other people that she knows that we work with are like, well, I can't do business with you. It's like, well, what are you saying, Renahi? Are you even telling the truth? Or are you twisting it to play the victim because that's what you like to do? And I've noticed that she does that a lot too in our time. And it's like, always, anytime we bring something up, I would be like, oh, did you write this piece of this grant? Or like one time I even gave her an assignment. to do something, and she took forever, and it was coming down to the deadline, and I had to do it myself and submit it because we were running out of time. And then 12 hours later, the next day, then she sends me the work I asked her to do, and I'm like, it's too late. I can't use this. You can't even meet the deadline. And I gave her like 2 or 3 days, and all it was reviewing. Just review this and see if you can find any gaps. Did I miss something? It was just a review piece, and it was reviewing resumes, which should have only taken maybe an hour or 2 hours, maybe on a hard day 4, but she missed the deadline, and I gave her 2 days to do it, missed that deadline, and then still an additional 12 hours later, then she comes back and it's like, oh, well, I'm sorry. I'm really this and that. That whole like pity party, which really is one thing that kind of grates on my nerves, is when everybody's super over apologetic. I mean, just own it. Say, I didn't get to it. I didn't get it done. I'm sorry. Instead of coming up with all these excuses and, feel sorry for me because I did this or I did that, or I don't read as fast as everybody. Sometimes you really have to just own your shortcomings. And for me, and that was always like, even when I supervised my team and we would have decisions, I was like, okay, this is how I would do it. And if it was wrong, I'd be like, okay, that was my bad. I messed up. So let's fix it. But I never saw that type of initiative from her. And then to have such a strange reaction the way she did. And I think she even told you, she's like, oh, but we were so close. And I'm like, well, how close did you expect to be with him? I mean, we were friendly and a business relationship. But if you were expecting more than that, I'm sorry, but I will have something to say about that.
Yeah. No. When Renahi reached out to you and called you disingenuous and said you didn't like her, that really set me off. And then to have to deal with fallout from William and fallout from Kelly, when basically this jealous girl is reaching out to my wife, I'm like, she didn't even like, and my last message to her, that's what set her off. And maybe this is my bad, is I said, listen, the closeness you felt was on your side because of my life coaching and how I am and the person that I am. And I'm going to make you feel something because I do genuinely love everybody unconditionally. And I still love Renahi. I still love William. And I still love Kelly. It doesn't matter. But for her to attack you, then to attack people on my team, like David, our incubator, it just was quite shocking. I had dealt with this, I was obviously a coach for Gen Z females and the dating and life coaching. That's really common here. To see it in business is hard. And, it's like, why are you in business? Is it to stroke your own ego? And like, it was constantly like, well, I'm a CEO. You have to refer to me as a CEO. I'm like, and then she said, we put David up on a pedestal so much, and it should be more about me. I'm like, that's your thought processes, that you think the CEO needs to be in charge. The CEO needs to be the center of attention. And it's like she just wanted like attention out of all of this, and I'm like, it's not about that. I don't care about attention. I don't care about fame. The fact that I get a lot of publicity and PR is one thing, but I only do that because it can benefit the business, and the business is the business of helping people. And so, I just was really concerned, really upset when she reached out to you and then and was disparaging to you.
Yeah. Well, and I was shocked by it. I was like, The argument you had was not with me. It was with Troy. So you need to address that with him. Why are you reaching out? And then to not even, and you even called her out on it, and you're like, stop harassing my wife. And she's like, I sent one text. It doesn't matter if you sent one or you sent 20. The tone of your text was enough to be offensive. When you start off with, oh, thanks for disconnecting with me. I never thought our interactions were very, I always thought our interactions were disingenuous. And I'm just like, okay, you send me a text to ask you to do certain things, and you start off by attacking me. That's never going to go well with me. First of all, I'm an Aquarius, and I don't like being told what to do, how to do it, or by whom to do it. And so
you're Samoan too.
And I'm Samoan. And those, I mean, if we were on the street, those would have been fighting words. And just to, and so and I didn't even really respond to her. I didn't respond to her.
No.
I shared it with you, and
I took a screenshot and I sent it. And then William came back and said, oh my God, you're psychotic. And I'm like, wait, I told you to stop harassing my wife after you went and insulted my wife, and I asked you to stop. And now somehow that's not psychotic, but I am. And even then, do I say the wrong thing sometimes? Yes, because I'm autistic and I take an antipsychotic medicine specifically for that. So now you're not only disparaging my disability, but you're excusing your own behavior. And this is where I really got crazy with Renahi, is she was like, no, other people on your team are failing. No, David is failing. And no, this person is failing. And that person is failing. And I'm like, Renahi, you need to worry about yourself, not about the other people. The other people are not important to you and are not important to your success or our success. The fact is my team was complaining because you don't show up to calls. You're unresponsive to emails. They reach out to you and you don't respond. Like you're saying, you gave her a task and she fails at it. I'm like, I am having to explain away, Renahi, like to my team constantly how you can't meet deadlines and you can't show up on calls. We were even doing a panel one time, and literally on the panel, I had to mute her because she, on an open mic, was calling her insurance company to talk about her car insurance. This is even before her accident. So it's not even about the accident that did all this. And I'm just like, Renahi, the personal accountability here is in the freaking gutter. And, Kelly, fine. I had actually turned Kelly over to Renahi, and I hope Renahi has written a lot of good grants for her. And I told Kelly that she should bring on Renahi as a co-founder. I kept her on the panels because that was a good thing. But then with William, I was just like, wow. And, none of William's companies have walked away from us. Like all of a sudden we heard from Jason. We're on the call with Jason, and we're going to meet with
Doug
us next week and stuff. And tomorrow we're going to have a hydrogen call. Like, I don't understand what Renahi is saying. That is, that I can't even dispute it because I don't know what's being said, and it's kind of frustrating on my part.
Yeah, and that's where especially with William's comeback, and I'm like, and when he's like, that's psychotic, and I'm like, William, did you read it? She's addressing me, and so then Troy's responding to her addressing and pulling me into the conversation and insulting me off the bat. So I'm like, and then and I was thinking about and William had all these he had originally wanted Renahi to grant write for him, but apparently she didn't do any of that. Mm-hmm. So we were starting to work on some projects for him. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, it takes, there are certain people in this world, and I've learned this through my years of supervisory, that if you mess up or you fall behind or you don't meet a deadline, they're the types that will take accountability, like you said, and they're like, I'm sorry, and then we would work with them to do some type of corrective action, and they take it in stride. Then there's those people who do like Renahi did and want to, instead of accepting their failure on meeting a deadline or a job or whatever, they then want to turn and point out everybody. It's almost like that old, I'm going to get biblical on you. You know, why are you looking at the speck in someone else's eye and you're not paying attention to the big old stick that's in your own? So it's like, yeah, if you can't self-audit your work and how you present yourself in a professional light, if you can't do that self-check and hold yourself accountable, and all you want to do is point fingers at everybody else, the great thing about pointing a finger at everybody else is you got, you know, 3 fingers pointing back at you. So it's like, you know, if you can't be mature enough to take that, to process it and do better, then maybe the business world isn't something cut out for you. And, you know, good luck. But even on the grant side, you know, having a co-founder who is so anti-American, you won't get a federal grant that you think you're going to get. Because with this current administration, they have put a lot of safeguards, and there's certifications that you have to sign off on. You know, you have to submit your resume and sign off on it saying this is true. And then there's certifications that you aren't dealing with any foreign powers or what they call countries of concern. And if Renahi's thinking that she's going to apply for federal grants with Roberto on her board, and they will go out and they will check your social media. I have known them to do that. And if they see that he's posting anti-American stuff, they will basically, you know, red flag him, and they won't get any kind of, because the government's not going to give money in the hands of people who do not support America. Yeah. And they even state that even on their applications to get a job. It's like, do you have America's interest at heart? And you have to sign that and basically swear to it. And so, you know, and that's the thing. It's like, not always, and that was one thing that really bothered me. It's like, not always do I agree with things that happen in the government. And, you know, there's good things and bad things. But to say that being pro-American is anti-Muslim, I don't see it that way. I think we can support, I think we should be grown enough to be able to support everybody that we work with.
Well, and I have argued this online a lot, where people are like, well, the Quran says this or whatever. I'm like, listen, I'm like, guys, the Iran was our allies before the fall of the Shah and before this new Ayatollah and all that stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They're like, you can't be friendly with those countries because Muslims are so bad. I'm like, no, Muslims are not. They're beautiful, and their culture is beautiful. Sure, it says this weird stuff in the Quran, and it does, but the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar are some of our closest allies, and I have never shied away. In fact, if you look back at, what was it, episode 2 or 3, remember when we were in Aberdeen? Mm-hmm. I did a call with a podcast with Renahi where I talked specifically about that you can be pro-Muslim and pro-American. I don't understand why.
Right.
Then my pro-American comments are misconstrued that way, or anything. That there's nothing, that there is a lot of Muslims in America, and we love them and they're great people. But to then say that I need to tear down America in support of the UAE or support of whatever, like, no, like, I've never backed off from that.
Right.
Never backed off of. I hold multiple truths, I guess, is something that people need to understand. Is I'm pro DEI and pro business. I'm pro-America and pro-Muslim. You know, I'm pro-men and I'm pro-female. Well, I'm probably more pro-female than I am pro-male, but I'm a male feminist for sure. But it was really off-putting to have
Yeah.
her turn her back as hard as she.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is just a lack of maturity on her part. And I think sometimes she may be listening to other people instead of formulating her own opinions and stances. And that's where I was like, if they expect us to back off of being pro-American, that's not happening. And so that's why I disconnected with them. I'm like, if my content is so, because you and I, we share a lot of content, a lot of the same things, and I'm like, and if that is so offensive, then it's just better that we completely cut ties. And I don't understand why you would want to continue to be on my LinkedIn and see my posts if it's so offensive, because, and then that's the other thing too, is if people don't like what I post, then yes, disconnect, don't follow me, whatever, because in that way you're not looking at it and getting all upset over something I said when you can easily just unfollow and and do it that way. But I think how she dealt with this situation, and I do think she's telling a lot of tales to other people, which is also a sign of immaturity that I believe, is that instead of saying being grown up about it and saying, yeah, we had a falling out and I'm no longer working with Troy, all of a sudden she's weaving these tales. And I have a feeling sometimes they get a little overzealous and maybe a little what do you trying to think of the word, but just a little blown out of proportion, or anything to make her look more like a victim, like she was just the victim in all of this.
When I talked to Brenda last week or this week, I'm sorry, on Tuesday, she even was like, Audrey was nothing but supportive of Renahi. And that's where I literally have an issue, is that your issue with me shouldn't extend to my family. And you shouldn't be reaching out and disparaging my family. I'm sorry, you're always going to get the response, and then to reach out and disparage you, and then make a request. Oh, he needs to pull every comment of me off of social media. Like, all you have to do is block me. It deletes all of the references. But you want to be immature, disparage me in multiple conversations, and my company in multiple conversations, reach out and disparage my wife, and then say, well, this is what I want you to do. I'm like, well, that's just really not going to happen. And so here's the answer, Renahi, to your question is no, I'm not going to pull it down. I spent hours and a lot of time coaching you, creating this podcast, and I'm not going to delete the early episodes of this podcast just because you now have an issue. That's your answer right now here. I'm doing it live here on camera, and this is on brand. This is what the podcast is supposed to be about. Renahi, if you have an issue, William, if you have an issue, Kelly, if you have an issue, come on the podcast. Bring receipts. I have them. I have all the text messages. I have all the late night conversations. William tried to say we have it all recorded. I'm like, you have editable transcripts, not actual recordings, first off. But there is nothing that I have said that I will not own up to. And so please, Kelly, Renahi, William, come on the call and let's talk about it.
Let's hear these recordings if you have.
Bring the recordings. Bring the receipts. Come with it. We're not scared, because whatever I said, if it was hurtful, it's hurtful. Like, that's just adult life. But
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we even can't do business or there can't be empathy going either direction.
Mhm.
I wanted to bring up something. So we're supposed to have this call. Geez, your second trip onto our podcast was supposed to be farther back than a month ago.
Yeah, but yeah, just about.
Yeah, because we wanted to talk about diversify.
Hmm.
So remind the audience of what happened with diversify
Okay.
and what is the outcome of that, because this was supposed to be your second chance on the podcast. It just has been a month because
Yeah. So a few months ago, probably around January, February, I was selected to be part of Diversify's 200 female founders in 2026 in the Bay Area. Was selected, had to go do a photo shoot because the premise behind the selection was they were going to, you took a photo and then they were going to have a event at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art where your portrait would be displayed as well as your company name. And then they expected everybody to be there to meet with potential investors and the other nominees, if that's what you want to call them, and just kind of do a networking. So you were supposed to stand beside your picture and be able to answer questions about your company or I was even told to prepare like a real short pitch to like maybe a 2-minute pitch because there was supposed to be, for every founder, there was supposed to be an investor at the event.
Mhm.
So, spent the money. I spent the money, and you know me, I hate to pay for advertisement.
you
I
drove
hate,
20 plus hours also. I
yeah.
don't think
Well,
you paid.
we paid for the pictures, and
Mhm.
then I paid for the tickets, and I had invited my COO and her spouse to attend with me because you were busy, so I didn't want to go by myself. But so I paid for all that. Plus, I had to rent a car and drive 10 hours one way to attend the event, and then was having to drive back because we were in Seattle at the time. And when I got there, and then they were like, "Oh, it's going to be formal." So here I am looking for a dress, a formal dress, which I didn't really have one. So, put a little bit of money into the formal dress. And then I go and I get there, and it is nothing like what we were told was going to happen. First of all, they didn't have the reservations for my COO and her husband, even though they had taken the money out of my account with the purchase of the tickets. There were no investors there. They didn't even, and that was the thing that bugged me. I was like, can you at least have name tags? Because I don't know who's a nominee and who's not, because they hadn't even really published all the pictures. So I was seeing, posts every now and then on LinkedIn on people saying, "Oh, I'm in the Diversify project," but having a complete list of who were the 200 founders was not provided. Let alone even a simple name tag would have helped. So, and instead of having my portrait set up to where I could stand beside it, they had one wall. It was just a backdrop, and everybody's portrait that was supposed to be like easel size, like a pretty big portrait, was down to like not even an 8x10.
Yeah, a little
And
6, right? Or
yeah,
it was smaller. I wasn't there.
yeah, I don't even think it was 8x10, but it wasn't a 3x5, so it was kind of somewhere in between. But they had everybody's picture on this wall. You couldn't even see names of who the people were. And so, I mean, I did stand there and take a picture pointing to my little headshot, but never were we afforded the opportunity to really intermix with the so-called investors whom I never saw any of them, or they weren't pointed out. And then they had some guest speakers, which was it was kind of disappointing because they had a panel of 5 women who were saying, oh, well, when you go to investors, you need to do this, you need to stand your ground. And I'm sitting there listening to him. I'm like, okay, you're not saying anything I don't already know. So the content wasn't that great, wasn't inspired. I told
but
it wasn't inspiring at all.
The speakers, were they even founders?
No.
So
one of them was like the comptroller for the state of California. And I'm like
they
were all women, but not necessarily founders.
So it's a founders event with non-founder speakers and no investors. And then you were charged for the pictures, for the event. And then weren't you even told to leave the room?
Yes.
Because you couldn't even stay to hear all the speakers because there wasn't enough space.
Yeah. Yes. They had like a room set up, and then there was an outdoor patio area. And so yeah, we were sitting there listening to one of the speakers. And then after that person spoke, she's like, okay, if you all could go outside so the other people could come in. And I'm like, well, what if I wanted to listen to the second speaker? I had to now go outside where I can't hear anything. And then you couldn't stand around the room because of fire code, because they did not have enough space. And so I was very disappointed in the whole management of it. And then later on, and they had that big thing with everybody's pictures, and there was supposed to be a QR code that you should. So we found out later what they did was they turned it, instead of having the big portraits that you stand by, they made the executive decision without telling anybody that they were just going to do an online gallery, and you had to scan the QR code and flip through your phone and look at the details. And that was where, because I had prepared, like you had to answer a questionnaire about what's your motivation, how'd you start your business, all this stuff. And on there, they had, on the online gallery, it was there. But then, of course, it was wrong because they had processed it through AI and didn't double check it before they posted it. So there was a lot of typographical errors and things like that.
Okay, when I want to, she's downplaying typographical errors. Sometimes when AI literally freaks out, it will say like in dot whatever, and that was all over her website. And then we reached out to her to say, correct this. You processed all of this through AI. I don't know why Erica and Drax AI didn't just take the founder's words and move them to a website. Listen, you are not going to say anything better about our company than my co-founder, Audrey, can say about it. And so changing her words is an issue. And then when we reached out and we said, you literally processed our words through AI. You created this entire website through AI after changing the whole approach to the prospect, because you drove 10 hours, spent thousands of dollars, but there were people who flew in from around the country.
And around the world. There was someone who came from Seoul, Korea.
Seoul, Korea. People flew in from Seoul, Korea to stand next to their picture. And you did not inform them that there was going to be no picture of them and there was going to be no investors. And it was embarrassing to the female founders to show up and have this not happen. And then beyond that, when you complained, you were taken off of the website. So to be successful in this world, you have to have a certain amount of PR. And especially if you're going to be on AI or Wikipedia or different things like that. And then she took that away because of your complaint. And then one of our team members backed her up. So tell about this story about how you were pulled off and then what happened with our love amplifier.
Yeah, so one of the other ladies who was selected to be in the top 200 was another co-founder that we had worked with and was actually working with our team. And it was after the event, you know, I even left a little bit early because it was so disappointing. And even my COO was like, where are the investors? And I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know where they are. Well, come to find out. So the investors were there the night before at a cocktail party. So we were supposed to pay not only for the event, but then this cocktail party had no idea about it, that's where all the investors were the night before. And that was an additional like $500 on top of the $200 I spent on the event ticket. So if the investors were going to be at the cocktail party and not the event, why did you, and that was my thing. It's like, why did you say the investors were going to be here if you were going to separate it? But these were all decisions at the last minute that Erica made to switch things up. Oh, well, we couldn't afford this and we couldn't afford that. Well, then maybe you shouldn't have done it.
Like I don't mind them making decisions, but you know what's free? Communication.
Yeah.
Words are not free if you think about them in the grander scheme, but she could have said there's going to be no investors there. Mm-hmm. Your picture is not going to be there. There's only going to be this website where we're going to change your words. Mm-hmm. And then to complain, when you complain, you get pulled off the website.
Yeah.
And punished.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was like I had made, and it was, and I think I had called you like right after we got back from the event, and because we were all in a WhatsApp group, and people were just blowing it up. Like, this was not what I expected. I can't believe I spent this much money. People were like, I flew, around the world to be here, and this was not what was promised or sold to me when I initially decided to attend the event. So, there were other people who were complaining. I wasn't the only one, which kind of was like, okay, at first I thought maybe I was just being a little too dramatic. But then when I saw other people complaining, I'm like, well, no, okay, I'm not the only one who thinks that this night was a failure. Mm-hmm. And even I think you had reached out to Carissa, and she even had said that she was disappointed in what had happened. So then I never mentioned Carissa on the WhatsApp, but there were a few other people that had said something, and I like thumbs up their comment or something. And then I came on your podcast like 2 or 3 days afterwards and talked about how I felt about that, how I was disappointed. I felt it was very extractive to get these co-founders who's, when you're founding a new company, especially a startup, for me, I don't have the money to throw around. So thinking that this was going to be a great honor and a great opportunity, and I'm spending all this money, which me, I don't like to spend money, especially on self-promotion, but thought this would be a good opportunity to meet some of these investors in the AI space. And then for it to not happen, it's like I wasted my time and my money for this and didn't get the results that I was promised. Mm-hmm. And so that was very disheartening. But then also this Erica from Diversify reached out to Carissa because I guess she had seen the podcast where I complained about all the things. And it wasn't anything that I didn't put into the WhatsApp that or other people had complained about. I was basically, we all had the same general complaints. And she reached out to Carissa and basically cornered Carissa into saying, oh, do you feel the same way? We found her remarks to be very disparaging and she used another word, but one of them was disparaging and whatever. And so they were mad because I had talked about how I felt about it. And they were mad that I called them out for not delivering what was promised.
And you didn't say anything really, but what the words, okay, I actually do have almost an eidetic memory, right? So,
Uh-huh.
and what Carissa said was people reached out to say, do you support Audrey? And
Right.
she said no. Okay. When we're talking about a podcast about loyalty and stuff, you were actually non-accusatory in our first podcast. For people to then reach out to Carissa and say, do you support Audrey? And are you of this mind? Then Carissa didn't just stab you in the back at that point. There is 30 plus founders who were eliminated from that website because everybody who had any type of complaint was eliminated. And you know, have you ever seen Dax AI? Have you ever looked them up?
No, I haven't.
Okay, that's where Erica comes from.
Yeah.
It talks about trust and accountability in AI. But as soon as she was held accountable, she deleted everybody with a complaint.
Mhm.
And oh, you're looking it up. I can see the look
Yeah,
at Dax AI. Do we want to show it on screen? I can show it.
Yeah, maybe because I'm not finding the actual website. Yeah, I'll let you do it. You probably can get to it faster than I can.
That's, of course I can. So the website that talks specifically about making AI trustworthy, traceable, and accurate then had to punish you because you spoke up. How is that garnering trust? How is she so concerned with AI traceability that she has to delete every person's comments if they're against her thing? And how is that accurate? How is it accurate when you delete or suppress comments against you?
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing, is like I even spoke with some of the other ladies that were not happy with everything, and they invited me to they said, you know, we want to try and do the event again on our own and do the way it was promised, and redo the event so that all the ladies who came in who were told this is how this is going to be set up, that could do that. And they were also writing a letter to all of the
Sponsors, investors.
Yes, yeah, the investors, whoever had given Dax AI money to do the event, they were writing a letter and saying, and they were asking to be compensated back what they had spent, because some of these women spent thousands of dollars for this event. And then to show up and it not be what you were told it was going to be, because they made a decision late in the game and never communicated that it was changing. Because to tell you the truth, if they would have told me, oh, we're just going to do a virtual gallery, I wouldn't have come.
No big deal. Hey, NBD, no harm, no foul. We love the pictures we got. And I will call out again on our Mirror Me, the people they chose to take those portraits.
Yeah.
I'm not going to speak for her, but I'll speak for us in that I am very happy with the pictures that I got out of there. And I actually reached out. I don't know if I told you this. I reached out to her and said, you know how great this would be in LA and Vegas? 100%. You should expand. But that we had a great experience. But even that experience wasn't explained to us. Did you know you and I could take those pictures together before that day? And so why is it so hard to communicate? Hey, you and everybody you're inviting is going to pay $179, which is actually pretty cheap for a photo session, actually. When I talk about this, is actually a pretty good deal. Can take 30 minutes of photos, come ready with dress changes, be ready with your family or your significant other or whatever. Like literally even the smallest details of how the photo shoot is going to happen was not even communicated. And then remember, she said you had to have shoes on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now your portrait was this big of your head.
Yeah.
You were forced in that photo shoot to have shoes on, and we walked all the way back to our car to get the shoes and then come back, and then I came back with different changes. I hadn't even like shaved or showered. Not that I don't look good, just how I am. But that is how poor that communication was, that you didn't even know you were taking pictures with me or that you needed shoes. And then the shoes weren't even included in the picture.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like
man, forced myself to wear, because I initially wanted to take my pictures barefooted because, you know, being an island girl, I hate to wear shoes, period. And so I thought, oh, well, you know, these pictures are to reflect who I am and my personality. I need to be barefoot. And then, and then I was told I could not take them barefoot. I needed to wear shoes.
You're saying that the photos about diversification and being different and your culture then forced you to go wear Western heels?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's where I'm like blown away. I'm like, how could this not have been communicated?
Right.
How, like, that's just not trying to communicate.
No.
Not even an effort made.
Yeah. And even the day of, I was texting her or in the WhatsApp, and I'm like, my COO still hasn't been confirmed. She has not gotten her tickets. And then at one point, Erica came on the WhatsApp and she's like, oh, I've just been so busy. My email's full, my phone's full. It's okay, just come and we'll figure it out. And I'm like, okay, fine. And if anybody knows me, I'm so OCD that sometimes not having the logistics worked out and not having that communication will just drive me batshit crazy. Because I'm like, when you're doing this event, and and it's a large event, and you've got 200 female founders who are all bringing at least 1 to 2 to 3 guests, and then all these, supposed to be 200 investors. I'm like, I understand it can be big, but just the lack of communication, and it was just so, so disorganized and just fly by the seat of your pants, and that kind of sends me into a little bit of anxiety, because I'm like, okay, because I even told Annette, the COO, that when we got there, I said, if they don't let you in, I said, I'm going to throw an absolute shit fit, because we paid for these tickets, and if we get there and they're like, oh, we don't have you on the list, I'm gonna be like, we're still going in. So I was gonna give a little hood rat on them in the middle of San Francisco. Yeah, I was like, because Annette and Fred spent their time getting ready. I stayed at their house and they drove in, and I'm
Truckee.
They drove down from Truckee to their Half Moon Bay house, and then we drove up to San Francisco. And I was like, if they don't let you in, I'm going to lose my mind, because all of that disorganization, it just seemed to be piling up and piling up to the night of the event. And it was causing me a little bit of anxiety of not knowing if they were going to get in there. And so all of that. But then, the thing that really made me mad was when she called Carissa. And then when Carissa said, no, I don't support her. And then her comment back was, well, we found her remarks to be discouraging and disrespectful.
Yeah, disrespectful.
And I'm like, in no time was I ever to be considered disrespectful because I voiced my opinions on how I felt and how I was disappointed that you didn't fulfill what you had promised. I don't find that disrespectful. I find that being honest. And if you can't handle the truth,
Well, and they could have found my comments disrespectful. I'm sharp. I'm autistic. I say things. Mm-hmm. You never did anything that was wrong.
Yeah.
Not at any time. You never did anything that was wrong to Erica. You never did anything that was wrong to Carissa. You never did anything that was wrong to Renahi. And you have taken the brunt in every step.
Mm-hmm. And
it's shocking to see how people treat you when they get up in their feelings.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things, like I was even talking with Brenda, who also is my life coach. And I said, that's the one thing that when we started Sugar and Leather and I decided that I wanted to have a different work culture, because so often I see women tear down other women. And sometimes it can be just over the simplest little thing, and jealousy, or, just, being called out for something. And then they just want to tear you down. And I'd already been through, a year and a half of that kind of torture. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So that was, and that was like even the biggest part was when Carissa really didn't have my back on it and basically stabbed me in the back and was like, oh no, I don't agree with what she's saying, just to save face with Diversify. And then when they did fix the website and do the virtual gallery, I was removed, as well as 29 other female founders were removed and weren't included anymore. So it's like, okay, so you got mad because we called you out for not providing this event to what was promised. And so then your retaliation is to pull us off the site. That's really mature. So
yeah, I think you called out something. So we have a panel that talks about women in tech and women in leadership and stuff. What is going on where female founders tear down female founders? Like that like I didn't mean for that to be the topic here, but I've heard it over and over from what you're saying, is that females and women tear down other women. Whether it's Renahi, whether it's Carissa, whether it's Erica, whether it's
Julie.
Julie, you want to tell the story from your old job? We can save that for our personal podcast. Or
We'll save that. So tune into that one. That's a whole nother story. No, I think what it is a lot of time, it's hard enough being a woman in the business world. How many VCs, well, one in particular that we sat across the table from and basically talked over me or around me to where I almost came across the table at him. Because I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm a little more headstrong than that. And so I'm like, you will speak to me and you will respect me as a business owner. If not, you and I can go fix this in the parking lot. But I do find that, it is tough being a woman in the business world and making your way. And then in AI also, a lot of women are overlooked in that field.
Technology.
And
technology. Beyond
technology in general. But then so I feel some women take that stance as like, okay, I started my company, I founded, I'm in AI, but if any other female comes, it's almost like they take this whole defensive stance of like, I can't let them win on me, so I'm just going to tear them down instead of supporting and lifting somebody else up and saying, and kind of making that the new sisterhood in business and in tech. It's now all of a sudden it's backstabbing and undermining, and I don't understand that. I can't wrap my head around being like that, and that just may be because I'm just a different person. But I've seen it a lot, and like we talk about here, and here's 3 people in the last 6 months that have done this to me, and I can't imagine how other female founders are doing, or how other women in business are doing, when you've got to constantly watch your back not from the men in business, but you think that these women are your friends, and then they end up stabbing you in the back. And so it's like, it's almost like you got to walk with your head on a pivot and never really trust anybody. So, which is sad to me that you can't. So.
Well, now that you're saying that, if you're okay with it, I would say we should address your interactions with your females and your coworkers, good and bad, at the Department of Labor in Missouri.
Okay.
Because you're bringing up what the audience doesn't understand, but what happened when you brought me into the loop?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about, if you're okay with it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Department of Labor, how that all went down.
Yeah.
And I'm going to preface this for our audience in that Audrey was paid for 5 months to not come to work in exchange for not suing the Department of Labor in Missouri. Right. Yeah. This is not a small conversation we're having here. Mm-hmm. This is a very serious. She cannot sue because of that. And then talk about Donna and Fonda. They were let go recently. Mm-hmm. Like, that department is destroying people over there. What happened with us? What happened when I came into your life?
So it all goes back to, like, you and I met in, July of 23. And we started.
3 years now?
Yeah, 3 years. And we started dating. And so at my job that I had been there for so long, I had always been single, hadn't really had a dating relationship to speak of. And so then you and I started dating. And so there were 2 women, Flo and Dina, who were really close colleagues of mine that I actually considered them really good friends. And like, we even took girls' trips together and things like that. And then, of course, my boss, Julie, had come in maybe a year before we met.
So she was 23, I think, right?
22, I think July of 22, she came in. But, and she was my new boss. I'd worked with Becky Becky was the one who hired me as the intern, and I'd worked with her for several years, and we had a really good relationship. Her and I working with her.
Okay, I want to state for the audience, several years is 25, by the way. Audrey likes to understate.
Yes, no, yeah. I worked with her for 25 years. And like I said, we built a really good working relationship, very close. I mean, even casually off work, run into her at Walmart, my social club, and would talk with her and her husband. But Julie came in. And then when you and I started dating, and I was so excited because I met this guy, and you moved to Jeff City, and we were living together. And so I was super excited. But I started to realize the more I talked about you and how much fun I was having and how exciting this was, the more side eyes I got from Dina and Flo. And so I decided, I said, oh, I'm going to have a lunch and have everybody, I want everybody to meet Troy. I talk about him a lot. So let's have everybody meet each other. And I really thought that like you and Flo had very similar personalities. And I thought you guys would get along famously.
I thought so too.
And then, so we go to this luncheon and Julie's there, Flo, Dina, I believe Fonda was there. Robin was the only one who couldn't make it. And we start talking and they find out, and this is the bad part about mid-Missouri. They found out you were a Democrat and you were from California. And oh my gosh, then it started. Dina especially started being so rude and talking about, well, the murder rate is so high and this and that. And she's hardcore, MAGA supporter. And which is neither here nor there. I think you should still be able to be however you want to be, but still be cordial to other people. But no, her and Flo decided to really come at you and question all this stuff and basically insult you over your life choices on how you were living, how you were traveling, and were just really being rude. You didn't say it. You
No.
You didn't get upset or say anything. I was livid because I'm like, I can't believe these were supposed to be my friends and you're being so rude, rolling your eyes and doing that whole, and I'm like, what the freak is wrong with you people? And then I found out later when they got back to the office, because we had an appointment or something that we had to go to. So after lunch, we went to that appointment. But when they got back to the office, well, then they just started gossiping about how they didn't know you were coming. You just showed up and you weren't supposed to be there. And I'm like, when I found that out, I could literally see red. But that started a whole series of, because after that lunch, I think by that December, we had gotten engaged, and to me it just seemed like a whole jealousy thing because Flo had recently lost her husband. Dina was married, and so was Julie, but it just seemed like that they could not be supportive of me in the fact that I was happy and moving on. There were so many things that they brought up, like, oh, he's just scamming her, and this is too soon because my mother had passed right before we met, or right after we met.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, he's just using her. He's gonna use her, take all her money, and I'm looking at them like, I ain't got no money, so I ain't worried about it. So
okay,
$20 I got in my pocket, but it was just that whole mentality of, oh, okay, now I'm gonna just shit talk this person because I'm jealous that she's doing something and moving forward in her life, and it's something that makes her happy. And even Fonda, who I call my Aunt Fonda because I've known her since I was a child, was very close with my mother. She at least had the nerve to come up to me, and she came into my office one day and she said, I just want to say this because I care about you. But she said, she's like, are you sure? Is this what you want to do? And, and I told her, I said, Fonda, I said, I thank you for at least having the courage to say that to my face.
I have no problem with people who address me directly.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, at least you come to my face than to sit there and talk about me behind my back all day, especially when I'm not there. And I told her, and I explained to her how I felt and my side of it. And she says, okay. She was like, she's like, I'm just saying this because, I've known you. for so long. And she's like, but if you're happy and this is your decision, I said, yeah. And I told her, I said, you know, Fonda, I said, if it's the wrong decision, it's still my decision to make. It's really nobody else's business.
Yep.
I don't want people to sit there and think that they're trying to save me or talk me out of this. Again, I'm an Aquarius, so I'm very headstrong. So if you tell me the answer is no, I'm going to say no. The answer is yes. So even if you were to try to talk me out of something, I'm not going to listen to you because I have my own mind. I have my own mind. It's my decision. And I can't explain to people enough how I feel about at the time about you. And I'm like, so if it's a mistake, then let me make it. I take full responsibility if I make a mistake and it turns out bad. That's on me. That's not on anybody else. And but then from that point on, and then we got married. I mean, Julie wasn't even happy that I wanted to take 2 weeks off to get married. She was very demanding in far as my work to make sure I had this done and that done, and where all this stuff had to be completed before I could even leave. And so yeah, she was not happy at all that I took 2 weeks off to get married. It was crazy. A week to drive out there, get married, and a week for my honeymoon. And it's not like I didn't have the time. I had so much time built up that I had actually excess leave to use that I needed to use. But then from that moment on, even after we got married, it was nothing but walking on eggshells around her all the time, because she took your being from California and your political stance as a personal attack I felt on herself. And then therefore she basically blamed me and was trying to do everything she could to, she was really trying to make me quit. Honestly, I think she was trying to drive me out. And I mean, I don't know how many days I would come in, and there'd be days and weeks where she wouldn't even speak to me at all. I got the silent treatment for weeks, and she'd never come back. And I'd hear her over in her office, and I'd hear her talking with Flo and Dina. Oh, how was your weekend? How's that? But never once did she come around to ask me how my weekend was or how I was doing or anything. I was ignored a lot. And then I was pulled off of a couple projects that she was like, well, I really want you to do this movers project. I was like, okay. So I'm like, trying to get all the notes and study and try to make sure I'm prepared for this. And then all of a sudden she just pulls me off of it. And she's like, well, you're going to, because at that time, come that December, I did tell her that I was going to go ahead and retire in April of 2026. Because I decided, and again, this is my decision. I decided I wanted to go ahead and retire because I wanted to spend time traveling with you. I didn't want to have to be tied down to a job for 5 more years. I was tired. I was tired of working. And she was not happy about it. And that was the start of, I think I spent 3 weeks in silence after I told her that. And then she came to me and she's like, well, whenever you're ready to announce your retirement, we'll announce it. But then she took all of those decisions away from me, like when I wanted to announce my retirement. And she went ahead and they decided to give Flo that I needed to train Flo to take my place. Even though I hadn't officially announced my retirement, she went behind my back and did all this and all that. And then basically it was like, well, effective this date where Flo's going to start training under you, and we'll just announce your retirement. And I'm like, I wasn't ready to announce my retirement. And so she basically took that decision away from me. And so then, they were like, well, do you want to have a retirement party? I said, no. I was like, I don't want anything from you at all, because you guys are just really treating me badly. And it even got to the point where I was having anxiety and depression because it's like I never knew what I was going to get when I walked into work. Was I going to get good Julie or bad Julie? Was what I did going to be wrong or going to be right? Or if I did it this way, well, no, that's wrong. Do it this way. And if I do it that way, then that's still wrong. There was no pleasing her. And she was just really, really trying to sabotage me in everything I did at work. And I mean, it even got to the point where and you could even tell, like, come Sunday evening, I'd start getting really quiet and really sad because I had to go to work the next day. And just the thought of walking into that office was so stressful and anxiety ridden that, yeah, I had to go on medication just to handle it. And even if I said anything, well, then I was just going to be punished for speaking my mind. And then 6 months before, well, you had gotten sick, and so I went on FMLA to take you to doctor's appointments. That did not. I just went straight to HR and filled out my FMLA paperwork, and then when it was granted, she was not happy about that. So it was like,
I'm gonna stop you there. Audrey likes to say things offhandedly without any context. I had a 23 MELD score, meaning there was a 23% chance I was dead in 3 months. This isn't like I had heartburn or my foot hurt or something. Literally, Audrey met this person, me, and fell in love, and her friends destroyed her over it. For what? They were so mean to me, and I was like, being autistic and who I am, I'm used to people attacking me, and that's why Kelly, William, Renahi, any of these people don't necessarily faze me. You were highly hurt by that. Mm-hmm. And I want to be clear. Autistic people are all in or all out at every step of the way. Mm-hmm. And so when she says her mom was dying or died, right?
Yeah.
I dropped my entire life to move to Jefferson City.
Yeah.
And because it's the right thing to do, Audrey needed that at that time, somebody to be there. And then after I was there, oh my God, the level of BS we dealt with.
Yeah.
Off the charts. Kicking your brother out of your mom's old house. Mm-hmm. Your mom's dying. Like your great nephew, Audrey was taking care of her brother's grandchild who was sexually assaulting other children and abusing them. And all of a sudden I'm in this dark triangle kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And then Audrey's having to go to work and get beat up over this guy. And I'm like, wait, the guy who dropped everything to be there? The guy who is taking care of her grandnephew and figured out he was abused? That's the guy you're choosing to attack just because he's a Democrat from California. And so that's why I just kind of wanted to give a little context to the story, how wild it is. And then now you're getting beat up by Renahi and Kelly and William for supporting me, this autistic guy who did what? Who spoke the truth and is overly engaged and commits to every decision.
Yeah.
Would that be you, America, or anybody?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it all ended. They put me on the performance improvement plan 6 months before my retirement date. And
how many people out there have been written up on a performance improvement plan, I'll ask the managers out there, as a manager for a long time, would you ever put somebody on a performance improvement plan without a write-up first? And would you put them on a performance improvement plan 6 months before their retirement? Would that ever, ever, ever happen in your work?
Yeah. So yeah, no, she and that was the funny thing was we had like monthly engagement meetings, and I had met with her the week before, and never once did she say anything about, well, you've been slacking on this, or your performance hasn't been great on this, and it was just a great conversation. And then the next week I get called in and told I'm being put on a performance improvement plan. And then at that point, she can't even look me in the eye, because I told her, I said, we talked last week and you never once mentioned this. And she's like, oh, well, I've been saying, I'm like, no, you haven't. And then of course she got mad when I confronted her. And I said, fine. I said, we'll do this performance plan. And that was the thing I think that was driving her crazy, is part of it was me going home for lunch. And she said that, people that, I was gone too much, and that people said that I wasn't available. So I said, fine. I said, so while these last 6 months, I'm on this performance improvement plan, which is only 90 days in the state of Missouri. And so for 90, almost 90 days, I didn't go home for lunch. I took my lunch in my office, and I even told my staff, I said, I'm going to take my lunch, but my door is, slightly open. If you need anything, just come on in, because I don't want to ever be accused of not being available. And when I told her that, because she even said, you can take your lunch, you can go home for lunch. I said, no. You told me that people said I'm not available, and so I don't want people to think that I'm not available. So I'll just have my lunch here in my office. And I think that was the thing, is I think she was trying to find some way to ding me in failing the performance plan, so that she could basically have me fired. But I wasn't giving her that opportunity. So then it just made her madder and madder. And then even when I had a dental appointment, anytime I had a doctor's appointment, she just would, it was just seemed like it was so inconvenient. And I would even send her weeks in advance, these are the days of leave that I have scheduled, because we were dealing with your doctor's appointments and my doctor's appointments. And I would even give her sometimes even a month's notice when I needed to be off.
You were sometimes giving her my entire medical records.
Yeah.
That's how extreme it was.
Yeah.
How did your time there? Well, and I want to point out also is people like Renahi and Carissa could have reached out at any point, and you would sacrifice everything to be there for them, just like I would. But then talk about what led to, well, there was a Facebook and Instagram instance, right? What happened that ended your employment at the state of Missouri?
Well, the first was, you had noticed Flo was tracking your Facebook, or she was showing up on your Facebook feed. And you said something to me, and I was like, well, I didn't understand why she was doing it.
Yeah.
And then
so rude to me when we met, and I was just like, just stop following me. Like, you dislike me that much, just
right.
What?
Yeah. Well, I don't even think she had friend requested you. I think she was just stalking your page. And then I had a dental appointment, and at at first I thought I was going to go to my dental appointment and be able to go to work, but then they told me, oh no, we're giving you nitrous, and they like you won't be able to drive. You'll have to sleep it off the rest of the day. So I had to tell Julie that I had this dental appointment and I would not be able to come in because they were giving me nitrous, and they had even were going to give me a sedative. And she was not happy about that. But while I'm in the dentist chair, you asked me, who is Julie Kuhn? And I said, that's my boss. And you showed me that she had gotten onto your Instagram that morning at the exact time I'm at the dentist appointment. And she's looking around on your Instagram. And I think did she like something, or somehow it flagged you that she was on there?
Yeah, I could see she was watching my story.
Okay.
Of you in the dental chair. And I was so upset because I was just like, we had been fighting forever. Listen, if I'm taking intermittent leave because I'm literally about to die, that's okay. If Audrey is taking intermittent leave because of her medical conditions, that's okay. And then for her to be live watching my stories, I was just like, stop stalking. That was literally stalking. You were stalking people.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing about Julie is she had said, I don't have social media. I'm like,
right.
This Facebook account attached to your Instagram profile is from 2012. It's not new. And you're part of the group of buy and sell and trade in Jefferson City. This is not a new account that would not be attached to somebody in the Jefferson City space. And then you're on it in your name and Julie Kuhn while saying you have no Instagram. And my Instagram is not tied to my name.
Right. Yeah, she had to do some digging to find it. That's for sure. So, and that was the thing, is like when you showed me that, I'm like, that's her. That's, that's my boss. And why is she on your Instagram? And you called her out on it. You tagged her and the department director, I think even the governor, because it was a habit within the Department of Labor to stalk people's social media, especially when they were on sick leave and things like that. And I was even told that Matt had even shown up to somebody's house who had called in sick, and he showed up to their house to make sure they were there and that they were sick. And so that's just kind of like the, to me, that's just a little underhanded. If people called in and told me they were sick, I took them at their word. I never tried to question them, but they take it to this whole other extreme of like, okay, now we're going to stalk and follow people and show up at their residence to make sure they're sick, which is just, to me, it just seems a little too much. But then when she was confronted with that, well, then she was just angry, because I remember like the day before everything ended, she came in and we were having our PIP a weekly meeting, and she just barks at me, do you have anything to say to me? And I'm like, I'm looking at her because I'm completely caught off guard. I'm like, no. She's like, nothing, you don't have anything to say to me. And I'm like, no, I don't understand. And she wouldn't tell me why she was asking that. She just kind of walked out in a huff. And then it wasn't until that Friday. And this is the Friday before we had to leave to go to Arizona for your doctor's appointment.
Yeah, I went to the Mayo Clinic.
Yeah.
Like I didn't, when I talk about my exploration with doctors and my issue with doctors, I went all the way to the Mayo Clinic. I could not have gone to a higher level of doctor. And that's how sick I was to go to the Mayo Clinic and they were upset because she had to take a week off to drive me from Missouri to Arizona.
Yeah. 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 And the appointment was in the middle of the week. It was a Wednesday. So I told her, I said, yeah, we're going to have to leave. Like, because it's about it's about a 3-day drive because, you can't just sit there. You could drive all the way through, but it's probably not wise or safe.
I was also sick. I could even share the driving with you.
Yeah. So me having to drive all the time. So, and I told her, I said, yeah, we'll probably leave Sunday, drive Monday and Tuesday, go to the appointment. And I told her, I said, as long as they don't have any other testing for him to do, because our hope was that they would do all the testing required when you got there, do everything in one appointment. I said, we'll turn around and come back, but then it's going to be Thursday and Friday. We won't probably get back till Friday night, Saturday morning. So I took the whole week on my FMLA, which I was approved for, and I gave her notice for.
And you had built up leave too.
Yeah, and I had leave built up. I had plenty of leave built up. And so she was not happy about that. But the Friday before we were supposed to go, I had asked to take off about 1 o'clock. I said, we need to get I need to get some other things in order before we leave and head out to Arizona. And she disappeared. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call that Matt wants to see me in the conference room. And I knew that it wasn't good because I'm like, this is crazy. And this is typical of Department of Labor is they wait till Friday to fire anybody and they wait till in the afternoon. I mean, they do that all the time. So I went down there and then I was confronted by Matt and Dana, who was in HR. Matt was our deputy director, who said that I wasn't taking the PIP in good faith and I wasn't trying to do any better. I wasn't, working on the PIP to improve. And I just kind of looked at him like, I don't understand what am I not doing? And then he's like, well, you've been doing transfers for years, and why does Julie have to give you approval to do a transfer? And I looked at him and I was like, Matt, in all the years that I've worked here, because, when I was working with the trust fund, we're transferring millions of dollars every day. And I would do transfers for payroll. And, at the time, the government was on shutdown because this was in November. And so money was tight. And I told him, I said, Matt, in all the years that I've done transfers, I have never done a transfer without getting verbal or written approval from Becky or Julie. I said, I don't do it because I need to make sure I tell Julie, I said, especially now when the budget's tight because of the government shutdown and restrictions on money, I said, she wanted me to draw like almost $1 million. So I went to talk to her 2 times and she was not in her office. So then I emailed her and I said, I'm getting ready to draw this down. Is it okay? And I'm drawing it out of these funds. And of course she responded back, but me asking her, and then this is where I think she was just reaching instead of just doing the transfer. And I looked at him, I said, I said, these are millions of dollars. I just don't go out there willy-nilly and draw money. I don't. That's not proper. And I would never do it. I said, so if I can't talk to her face to face and say, I'm drawing this money, is this okay? Then I'll send her an email. Since she wasn't in her office or wasn't available. And then they brought up the thing that you had made the complaint about Julie stalking you and that you had complained to the governor's office. And Dana asked me, she's like, did you know he posted this? And I said, yeah. Well, didn't you ask him to take it down? I said, no, I'm not asking my husband to do anything. And she's like, well, this gives us a pause. And I said, he felt like she was stalking him and he has every right to feel that way when she shows up on his Instagram. and is following him on a day that I have a doctor's appointment.
Mhm.
I said, and she's like, well, it could have just been you never thought maybe somebody just got in there and hacked her Facebook account. And I looked at her like, are you kidding me? Like, seriously. You think that some hacker out there in the middle of the world is going, oh, I'm going to take this Julie Kuhn account and I'm going to start watching Mr. Sugar and Leather's Instagram,
Tyler Durden Jones.
Tyler Durden, and know that they're connected. And she just kind of looked at me, and I said, you're seriously telling me you think that? I said, there's no way that some hacker just happened to pick two people that knew each other and had a connection. I said, my husband's Instagram isn't even in his name. He has it's not, Troy Cunningham-Jackson. It's not listed like that.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, well, what is it? And I told her, I said, it's Mr. Sugar and Leather. And there's no reference in there to it being Troy Cunningham-Jackson. None whatsoever.
Miss Tyler Durden Jones.
Yeah.
Like, it's a Fight Club reference. So it literally has nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and I told her, and then they were like, well, why are you keeping all this documentation, or you need everything documented? And again, I looked at them like, you people are really like freaking reaching for straws here, and I looked at the HR person. I said, didn't you just talk to us in our training that we had earlier this year about document everything?
Yep. And then
you got me on a performance improvement plan, and yes, I'm documenting everything. So every time we have a meeting and Julie writes up, she's like, well, I'm going to send you an email about what we talked about, and you can write back on any notes or anything. And I was like, fine. And actually, Julie's the one who brought that up first. But then she was trying to say that I was asking for too much. And I'm like, I don't understand how me being on a performance plan and me asking you to document all of our interactions is asking too much. And I told Dana, I said, you guys are trying to change, again, they were trying to change the PIP to extend it because the part of it was I had to train Flo, and Flo was going out for a month long on a knee surgery. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, we're going to pause your PIP and extend it until Flo gets back. And I looked at her and I said, can I get that in writing? And she's like, yeah. I said, because if you're going to change the length of my PIP, which was only supposed to be 90 days, and I was 2 weeks away from the end of it. I said, if you're going to extend it, I said, I would like to have that in writing as to what you're extending and why. And then she didn't give it to me. And I asked her a second time, and she's like, oh, yeah, I'll get that to you. And then the last time she snapped at me again, and she's really good about that, coming off real snappy. And she's like, well, I don't think I need to document anything for you. And I'm like, excuse me?
Well, yeah.
You're the one who put me on this PIP. You're the one who's trying to offer it.
Yeah. Once you've gone down the documentation route, then you have to keep documenting. And that's where I have been there. If Kenneth Gardner ever sees this, or Cynthia Gomez-Jackson, the HR people from Verizon, who are amazing, amazing HR people, document, and you absolutely should document every part. And I didn't understand why they wouldn't want to document things when they're trying to literally fire you 6 months before your retirement. I didn't even understand why you were on the PIP, why all this happened. But then once it did, it's like, yeah, I'm going to make you document it now. And
yeah. Well, it's like, they teach us as supervisors to document all of our staff. Well, then why can't the staff turn around and document the supervisors? Especially when you talk about performance improvement plans. And when they called me out on that, they're like, well, why do you need all this documentation? And I looked at Dana and I said, if you're changing my performance improvement plan, I want it documented as to why you're changing it and what you're changing, to cover my ass in the end when you guys try to come back and go, oh, well, you didn't meet this. And, and then she had to, it was funny, the HR lady had to say, oh, okay, well, I kind of understand that. I said, that's why I was asking for it. I said, but then to tell me that you won't give me that documentation now. And, and I think they even got wind that I had spoken with an attorney.
Oh, so, the attorney.
Yeah. Attorney. Yeah. In the state of Missouri, the Department of Labor has been sued at least 5 or 6 times for personnel disputes and wrongful termination and discrimination and hostile work environments. So they've got a long history. And they've lost millions of dollars that they've had to pay out to these people. And so when they first put me on that PIP, I was so angry because nothing had been said and nothing had been said. I had never got a warning, nothing. And then all of a sudden I'm on this performance improvement plan. And so I called the attorney, Roger Brown's office, who did all of the previous litigations. And it was funny, I called his office and his secretary answered and she's like, oh, what can I help you? I was like, well, I'd like to speak with Roger Brown. And she's like, can I ask what this is concerning? He's in a meeting. And I said, well, I just wanted to see if he might look at my case and see if I can sue my employer for discrimination. And her next word was, do you work for the Department of Labor or Employment Security? And I'm like, yes. And she's like, hold on. She goes and pulls him out of the meeting to ask him. And he told her to send me to one of his colleagues who is from St. Louis, but does the same type of work and works with him. And he said, tell her to call him right now and he'll do all your intake. So we did, we sent him the information and his comeback was, and even the attorney was like, you need to document everything. If they haven't fired you yet, start documenting everything because when they do, we will file your case.
And that's where I was like, okay, Audrey, you can't go to work in the state you're at because you can't give them a reason. But when you go to work, document the hell out of it. And like if you're gonna fire somebody, how are you not okay with both sides documenting if it's a legitimate firing?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
And it just wasn't.
And that's the thing is I think that they knew they were wrong because I had even filed a complaint with my human relations officer and told them about Julie's behavior and how she had created a hostile work environment and how I was on medication. I mean, I was even like breaking down because she had me so stressed out. And even the HR officer was like, I can see this really affects you. And I said,
it was actually the employee relations department reached out to Audrey. And Audrey was meeting with a therapist for the first time in her life because of how amazingly destructive that work environment was. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was tough. It was a tough time in our lives.
Yeah. And even my therapist was like, she's like, I will write you anything. And she said, I've seen this happen before to so many people that they push you till you basically have a nervous breakdown and they try to find any little thing to fire you. And but then even the lawyer was like, if they fire you, he's like, document everything. And if they fire you, he says, we will file your case because you have a good cause for discrimination. And the fact that I had filed an employee relations complaint, an HR, what they call human relations complaint. Yeah. And they even asked me, and I was being so nice. And even at the end, they were like, what would you like the department to do about Julie? And I didn't say fire her. I could have said she needs to be fired. I probably should have. But I said, no, she just needs to be trained on how to be a better manager. I said, she lacks a lot of those skills on how to be a manager.
Well, didn't she just fire Fonda and Donna?
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah. So, but then part of my leaving, when I got they called me in and that whole confrontation about everything, they were like, well, we're just going to, we don't think that, that you can repair this relationship. And I'm sitting there thinking, I really don't want to repair my relationship with Julie. I want to just put me in the bench. But I was like, okay. He's like, but because of your mom's service, we're going to put you on administrative leave, but you can't tell anybody why you're on leave, and you can't sue anybody in the department. And once they said that, I'm like, because you guys know if you tried to fire me today, Roger Brown will be up here by 4 p.m. to serve you with the paperwork. And I think that's what they were afraid of, because I could have gone for millions of dollars with that.
Well, it was funny when you came home. You're like, can you believe they did this? I'm like, and like, they gave you a gift of getting out of there.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough emotional distress compensation that you can get from having to hang out there for 4 or 5, 6 more months. I was so excited, and I was just like, just let it go. Like, it's not right. They should be sued. They should have been sued. Julie Coons is obviously a POS, as is
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the team. But at the same time, your personal psyche, your quality of life isn't worth our suffering. So.
Yeah. Well, as crazy as it may sound, it was like when I walked out and I called you and told you, it was like a huge relief off of my shoulders. Because I didn't have to see those people. I didn't have to do that eggshell dance every day for 6 more months.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a big relief. As much as I didn't like the idea of being let go early, it actually was a big gift, because then I can move on. And they paid me my full salary up until my retirement, and then so now I'm getting paid my retirement. But then, to talk about the atmosphere in that department. So even after I left, the girl who replaced me, Flo, is struggling in that position, as I knew she would, because I don't really know that she was the right fit for it, but they didn't have very many options.
And she could have been the right fit if she would have worked at being the right fit, but I don't think she put in the effort it takes to get on your level. Like, I hate to say it that way. Like, and as we draw to a close, I'm going to switch our walkout song.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Because Flo, Renahi, William, whoever, you know what they're not, babe?
What?
Any stocks do I
They're
really
not
have
like
a
us. They're not like us, right? So let's
follow? They tell me Chubb's the only one that keep a horn on me.
I'm going to share my screen and let it go.
Reincarnated, I was stargazing. Life goes on, honey, and her my babies. Woke up looking for the broccoli. High key, keep a horn on me. Deck of my seat. IP ownership, the blueprint is by me. Mr. Get Off, I get off at my feet.
What's the password?
I see dead people.
You late.
Aye. Mustard on the beat, ho, Debo, any rap nigga, he a freak though. Man down, call her Amber Lambs, tell him breathe, bro. Nail a nigga to the cross, he walk around like Tizo. What's up with these jabroni ass niggas trying to see Compton? The industry can hate me, fuck them all and they mama. How many options you really got? I mean, it's too many options. I'm finna pass on this body, I'm John Stockton. Beat your ass and hide the Bible if God watching. Sometimes you gotta pop out and show niggas. Certified boogeyman, I'm the one that up to score with him. Walking down whole time, I know he got some hoe on him. Pull on him, extort shit, bully the floor on him. Say Drake, I hear you like I'm young. You better not ever go to cell block 1. To any bitch that talk to him and they in love, just make sure you hide your little sister from him. They tell me Chubb's the only one that get your hand-me-downs and party at the party playing with his nose now. And Baca got a weird case, why is he around? Certified lover boys, certified pedophiles. Wop, 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 wop. Not fuck him up. Wop, 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 wop. I'ma do my stuff. Why you trolling like a bitch? Ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord and it's probably A minor. They not like us. 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 You think the bay gon' let you disrespect Pop, nigga? I think that open show gon' be your last stop, nigga. They cold foul, I don't know why you still pretending. What is the owl? Bird niggas and bird bitches, go. The audience not dumb, shape the stories how you want. Hey Drake, they're not slow. Rabbit hole is still deep, I can go further, I promise. Ain't that something? Be rest, that's for bitchin'. You Malibu most wanted, ain't no law boy, you ball boy. Fish Gatorade or something. Since 2009, I had this bitch jumping. You niggas will get a wedgie, be flipped over your boxes, or over your foe. The other vaginal option, pussy. Nigga better straighten they posture. Got favors all up in contact. Might write this with a doctor. Tell a pop star quit hiding. Fuck a caption, won't action. No accident. I'm hands on. He fuck around, get polished. Fucked on Wayne Grower. He was in jail. That's conniving. Then get his face tatted like a bitch apologizing. I'm glad D-Rose came home. Y'all didn't deserve him neither. From Alondra down to Central. Nigga better not speak on Serena. And your homeboy needs subpoena. That predator moving flocks. That name gotta be registered and placed on neighborhood watch. I lean on you niggas like another line of walk. Yeah, it's all eyes on me and I'ma send it up the pot. Ay, put the roll label on me. I'ma get them dropped. Ay, sweet chin music and I won't pass the ox. Ay, how many stocks do I really have in stock? Ay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 5. Ay, devil is a lie. Here's 69 God. Ay, freaky ass niggas need to stay their ass inside. Ay, roll their ass up like a fresh pack of Zod. Ay, city is back up. It's a must. We outside. Ay. They not like us. 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 Once upon a time, all of us was in chains. Homie still double down, calling us some slaves. Atlanta was the mecca, building railroads and trains. Bear with me for a second, let me put y'all on game. The settlers was using town folk to make them richer. Fast forward 2024, you got the same agenda. You run to Atlanta when you need a check balance. Let me break it down for you, this the real nigga challenge. You caught Future when you didn't see the club. Like, what, little baby, help you get your lingo up. What, 21, get your false street cred. Thug, did you feel like you a slime in your head? Like, what, Quavo said you can be from North Side. What, 2 Chainz say you good, but he lied. You run to Atlanta when you need a few dollars. No, you're not a colleague, you a fucking colonizer. The family matter and the truth of the matter. Here was God's plan to show y'all the liar. He a fan, he a fan, he a fan. He a fan, he a fan, he a freaky ass nigga, he a 69 God. Freaky ass nigga, he a 69 God. Hey, 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 run for your life. Hey, 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 run for your life. Freaky ass nigga, he a 69 God. Freaky ass nigga, he a 69 God. Hey, 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 run for your life. Hey, 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 run for your life. Let me hear you say O-V-O, O-V-O. Say O-V-O, O-V-O. Then step this way, step that way. Then step this way, step that way. Are you my friend? Are we like this? Then